Hello and welcome to the Empathic Designer podcast. I'm your host Vytheeshwaran and we are in the fourth episode of the Cognitive Bias series. Cognitive bias happens when we look at the world through our lens. This means that cognitive bias is everywhere and is in every one of us, however rational and objective we think we are, which in itself is a bias. Our judgment is often clouded either consciously or unconsciously by our experiences, motives, and emotions that lead to such biases. In this series, we will look at some typical biases that we encounter as learning professionals. In this fourth part, let us look at courtesy bias and the Pygmalion effect. In my last episode, I had spoken about some of the reasons why needs analysis fail. Courtesy bias is one of those main reasons. Courtesy bias happens when we are inclined to give an opinion that is viewed as more socially acceptable within the context so as to avoid causing offense or controversy. The impact of courtesy bias often is proportional with the size or importance of the client. Courtesy bias reduces L&D professionals to become order takers and develop learning strategies that sound acceptable to everyone rather than being useful to everyone. Courtesy bias can often happen within a team where a junior member of the team is forced upon accepting inputs from a senior member of the team without asking any questions. Courtesy bias also leads to a dangerous phenomenon, assumptions. As I always say, any statement that starts with, I'm assuming, is the root cause for most of the suffering and heartache in the L&D industry. You can overcome this courtesy bias by actively seeking the inconvenient truth. Brainstorming with an independent team member who is not associated with the project helps with this. If you feel being cornered by the client asking you to do just what they think they need, you'll have to take a step back and post your recommendations with the logic and reason. The ball is now in your client's court. Let us now look at the Pygmalion effect. A couple of years back, I was having coffee with a couple of my colleagues, and one of them just was about to start a new project with a new client and asked the other colleague if they have worked with this particular client before. The other colleague had and painted a very bleak picture of their experience of working with this particular client and how he should be prepared for the worst to happen. They left the room with a huge sigh and no prizes for guessing how the new project turned out to be. This is known as the Pygmalion effect. When we expect certain behaviors of others, we are likely to act in ways that make the expected behavior more likely to occur. This effect also has a positive side as we can be geared towards success as much as we can be geared towards failure. Let us look at some of the ways to overcome the negatives of the Pygmalion effect. First is to never forecast failure. If you know that a particular prospective client is going to be difficult, instead of saying this out explicitly, talk about the expectations of this client and how they can do it right to achieve them. Second is to always look for the silver lining. A difficult client is an opportunity for you to prove your mettle. Setting high expectations and believing in your team's capability to achieve those is very critical in overcoming the negative side of the Pygmalion effect. Thanks a lot for tuning into this edition of the Empathic Designer podcast. If you like what you heard, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for getting those regular updates from my channel. And as always, if you have any questions, do leave me a note in the comment section below and I'd love to have a conversation with you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.